I'm gonna kick us off, I think, just by I like that subject about competition between each other and how, in fact, because I remember I was part of brunch discussion. Natasha is here, who is part of that as well, and Ashley as well. This actually comes out of brunch discussion, as did your play, Nine Night, come out of brunch discussion. And that's when I had the idea that this is something I really wanted to happen, that was going to celebrate women in the way that we were kind of supporting each other in that group. And also, you know, at auditions, I noticed that I would see the same people in the waiting room. And eventually what I did was I just would go, oh, but Aj, last time I saw you wasn't such and such happening. What happened to that? And, you know, how's Daisy doing? Or, you know, something like that. It became like this sort of knitting circle kind of in the waiting room outside. And indeed, Claire Perkins was always on the phone to me, telling me when auditions were coming up, you know, all these kind of things. So I love that kind of camaraderie, that support, that conspiracy of support is what I like to call it when it comes to women. Can you guys comment on that a little bit? Because you all have experience, I think, of female support in your careers that helped you move forward, that just kind of supported you as you took that step. Would anyone like to comment on that?
Yes, at the time you didn't realize it was something unique. It is what we did anyway. Whether it was for theatre or whatever the situation was, you were there for each other. And it wasn't kind of, the language has changed. You're there for each other. We didn't know we were being there for each other. We were just doing what came naturally. Because that is how we were brought up. There's this feeling, it's your sister. Everybody's your sister. And especially with any situation where you are in a quote-unquote foreign place, you tend more to coalesce, to join, to protect, to be part of. You know?
I think as women we kind of are in a foreign environment anyway, really. So it's important that we do come together.
Yes. So that came as from my point of view, that was natural, a kind of natural behavior. There was I never got the sense that I was competing with anyone. I might have been competing, but I was competing with the time that we lived in. That not amongst each other. I mean, we used to say, did you hear about that audition? I used to kind of share whatever it is. Somebody, you might have heard of something, or you might have been to see someone, and you would pass it on, just in case that person didn't hear it. And then we weren't that so widely dispersed. We thought we were quite close, and in almost under the same roof, as it were.
It's somewhat in relation to that. I have a quote of yours that I like. Someone was talking to you about the struggle, and you just weren't having it. And you said, the struggle is about finding a dignity to life.
Yes.
For everybody.
Yes.
Amen.
That was your words.
Yes. That's it. Absolutely, and I stand by it.
Yes.
For everyone.
I wanted to know what other moves forward or not you all observe in the industry today.
What I find is that other doors have opened up to people, so that if you want to go into this industry, you now have a choice. You can be a producer, you can be a director. There are people ahead of you on that road. You can follow in their footsteps. When they drop, you carry on.
Yes.
And like I always say, make sure you open the door for the next person.
Leave
the door open. And because when I was not aware when I started work that I could be anything but an actor, and it wouldn't have occurred to me to try, you know. So, but luckily I managed to make a living out of it. But the whole thing, and a lot of it, and the way I can feel good about myself, basically, is about not competing with my sisters.
Yes.
About having the grace to say, actually, you're better for that job than I.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I got offered a job. I didn't audition for it. They just rang up and said, "Can you?" I looked at it. I said, "You need Claire Perkins."
Same
and
here.
I gave them Claire
Absolutely.
Perkins.
Timmy, I've gone, no, I think you're looking for Joe Martin.
She's much better than her.
Yeah.
And Carol Russell told me, this is how not to get a job. Carol Russell told me a story. I couldn't remember saying this to her. But she said, we'd be there waiting, and Donna Kroll would walk in, and we'd go, oh, well.
Oh, no.
Donna Kroll's got the job.
Yeah.
And I said, thank you.
Yeah.
I said, thank you for giving me the job.
Yes.
Because when you go for a job, if you don't think you can get the job, why go?
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
you've given me
You've given
that
me the job by your
So-
own attitude.
Yeah. I said,
Um,
never do that again, Carolyn. She remembered it. She told me about it. I can't remember saying it.
Can I open it up as well? What would you hold as what you're proudest of, or what you see, and what is positive in this moment that you see, or something that you can share with us? Sorry, I'm being very, very unspecific and unhelpful here, but it's one of those things. Either something that you carry with you with pride about your own career, or something that you see happening now that gives you pride.
So there's a couple of things.
Yes.
So I ran a company called Wild Iris with my friend Polly Irvin.
That's right.
I'd worked for Gay Sweatshop, Women's Theatre Group, Theatre Centre, all the socialist feminists.
Yeah.
And Polly and I had both been punk rockers in the 70s. Saw the Clash when I was 14, 1977, changed my life. And we met at the Women's Theatre Group, and we co-wrote. So the Women's Theatre Group, it was theatre by women, for women, about women. All the central roles of women. That was it. Done. And so Polly and I met there, and we co-wrote a play called Lear's Daughters, which is on the Open University syllabus to this day. And it basically it's a story of Lear's daughters and the Fool and the Nanny. And as our play finishes, the curtain should swing back and you should go straight into King Lear. But then you go into King Lear knowing about these women. That was the thought. Anyway, Polly and I really liked working together, politics, punk rock, blah, blah, blah. So we set up a theatre company called Wild Iris, and we did various shows. We did a Doll's House. It went to the Ibsen Festival in Norway. A guy came to us called Jed. I can't remember his surname. Oh God, I can't remember anything. Anyway, it wasn't Mercury. It was Jed with a G.
Oh right.
A very reserved man, so not Jed Mercurio. He found this poem by an English writer called Charlotte Muse. It was a beautiful play set during the First World War in Yorkshire. Farmer, things happen. Anyway, read the play and I said, "This is great, Jed. Where are the black people?" And he went, "Oh," and I said, "It's new work. It's during the First World War in Yorkshire. Put black people in it that are genuine. Go away, do some research." And he did. He found the history that said African sailor ends up at Liverpool, doesn't want to do any more sailing, works his way across country and ends up being a dairy herdsman in Yorkshire in the 1900s, marries a local girl, has 2 mixed-race children, and they're the main characters of this story that takes you into the First World War, back to Yorkshire, it's about dairy farm. Because those things are real. Yeah. Who was here telling me about the BNP person who did the history?
I did.
Yes, and found out that his grandfather was Kenyan.
Yes.
But didn't know because the point being these histories are here and they can easily disappear. And I just said to somebody, it's a fiction, but it could be true because it is true in the wider narrative.
Yes.
And so we gave that play to who runs Scarborough? Alan Ayckbourn. Sent the play to Alan Ayckbourn and he loved it. And we did it there, and we did it at Bristol Old Vic, and we did it in London, and so I was really proud of that. Yeah. By just going, let's shake up the narrative. Yes. Yeah. We can do Shakespeare in our sleep because we are good actors, we are good artists in our profession. Yeah.
And also the thing about we coming from some parts of the West Indies, especially everywhere in the West Indies, speak.
Yes. Well, Carmen, this is the thing.
You speak from the time you go enter high school, wherever. It's about
There's an art.
delivering something.
Yeah.
Whatever it is primary important.
Well,
Speak.
you know that, Corin, of course, coming from Trinidad, Carnival, we got old Carnival characters like Midnight Robber, Piero Grenade, all these things, which is about the speech.
Yeah, it's about the speech.
Yes. Yeah.
And it accent, that's not what I
That has nothing to do with it.
Nothing to do with it.
How
It's
you
about
deliver it.
Exactly.
The delivery.
It doesn't matter
delivery.
where you're from or whatever. The delivery. That my drama teacher used to say, this little lady, she used to say it's like spitting pearls to the back of the stage.
Yes.
The back of the theatre. Just,
Well, you know, that's the problem I had, because when I first started going to drama school, they're trying to change me from my accent.
No,
I didn't want to change my accent. I've been here for over 60 years and I'm still speaking like a Trinidadian. I don't want to speak like anything else but a Trinidadian.
That's your voice.
That is your voice.
your
You
voice.
speak with your voice. It doesn't
Man,
matter where
why
you're from
change it?
or whatever. You have to be understood.
And you're a big part of
Or else get off
Notting
the
Hill
stage.
Carnival as well, aren't you? You're very involved with Notting Hill Carnival as well.
In what, sorry?
With Notting Hill Carnival.
Well, it originally started with us. Claudia Jones
That's right.
had the first carnival thing at the St. Pancras Town Hall in 1958. And she was the first person that started that. And they took it and they ran with it, and now it's on the street. And it's like, it belongs to, well, it is a good thing that it belongs to everybody.
Yes.
But they forget where it originated. They forgot about the completely thing about where the origin first. And that's a lot of things that's happened to what we have done and what we've started. It gets melted away.
Well, I did see a production called Juve, which we have one of the actresses here, Charlene Smith. It was on at 503. And what was lovely was that was two young London women at Carnival, and they everything that they go through being young women. But there was a great deal of tribute paid to Claudia Jones by the character that you played, Charlene. Do you want to talk about that?
I was just talking about the experience and how much the experience taught me and how ancestral the play was and how it was given homage to the people that started Carnival, the connection to the spiritual realm in Carnival. So it wasn't just looking at the dancing, the music, the drinking, the nakedness, but what that means to us as a community and what that means to us culturally. So that's something that I took from being a part of that production.
Yes.
So,
It's interesting for me that production that Carnival continues to symbolize something for the community that takes part.
That was the original thing of Carnival in Trinidad and Tobago. It's after the slavery, when we had freedom, the people came out on the street and performed and dressed up like the people who had owned them before. You know, so they were dressed as a Martinican, English aristocrats, because the other thing is about the Carnival in Trinidad and Tobago. It happens 2 days before the Lenten season. It happens. So the whole idea about the Carnival is that people go out and do whatever they want to do, but on Ash Wednesday, they confessed and they got the ashes.
I'd like to open it, sorry.
And that means that they fast for the next 40 days.
Oh, God.
Before Easter. But before that, they can carry on and do whatever they like to do. Debauchery, as they called it in those days.
Would anybody like to start? Yes, we've got one starting over there.
I wanted to hear from all of you about when you actually get hired for a job as a non-white female and how you deal with things that come up in that space.
In the room, absolutely.
Yeah, in that room, like, because now you've gotten in, you're really grateful for the opportunity, We're trying to, well, this is my little voice then. Really grateful for the opportunity, and then experience things that are actually quite abusive. And how do I stand for what I stand for without feeling like I'm going to lose this amazing opportunity?
And to add to what Charlene's saying, then I want to put to you guys, because we have different generations represented here, but also we have different experiences. We have, and I would include you in this, Donna, because you were born in Jamaica. So I wonder if there is a difference to being born in the Caribbean or in a black country,
Black majority
country, and what you bring with you, as opposed to I don't have the black experience of being born here, raised here, going to school, being chased up a tree. Do you know what I mean? Fortunately, I don't have that. And I think I can imagine, and this is what we will explore another time later, so please know that this subject will be addressed properly. I wonder if as a young black woman growing up in this country and already feeling differentiated, already feeling rejected, already feeling all these things, to go into an industry that follows this experience with what feels like further abuse, basically, because it does feel like that. Whether that is where one is even more susceptible, more, because not only that, but even more susceptible to the destructive tendencies of this art form. Not this art form, of this industry. I went into an art form and found myself in an industry. So I get you about the language. I get
I'm trying to hold on to the art form.
Yes, absolutely. That alone is going to drive you around the bend. So yes.
The abuse in the room, because there is abuse in the room.
There is.
And also, how do you feel about colourblind casting? That was the question. And I think the two things that
all right, we're going to start to talk. All right. Right. Anyone want to address anything?
I'd say I've never been aware of being abused in the room.
Right.
I've had directors give me notes, like Brian Murray said to me, and I was playing Narissa at Manchester Royal Exchange. He said, now, I think Narissa's a bit older and wiser than Portia. Portia was being played by Harriet Walters, who was like 6-7 years older than me. And he said, I think Narissa gives her a lot of that. And what I heard was, oh, Miss Portia! I thought, well, I'm not doing that.
No, yes.
So I smiled and nodded.
Yes.
I said, oh, yes.
Smile and nod, isn't
Smile
it?
and
Good.
nod.
Smile
and nod.
Thanks.
There you go. Write that down.
And then Harriet and I worked together, and what we did was so much more interesting than he'd ever imagined.
Yeah.
That he never gave me a note.
Yes.
So I'm only 19 and I've just graduated, and I know I'm seen as like super young. But growing up in a house with my father who is white, I didn't know anything about this side of me, really. And now, only as I've gone through drama school, it was quite a diverse drama school actually. I was very lucky, I was very fortunate. Now I'm starting to learn about the challenges that we did face and the challenges we have still to face. And I want to write and direct and act and produce. I want to do every single thing. And the challenges that I have to come, I want just two things. One, some advice for, how I handle who I am and never lose who I am, and do get to delve further into the past, because if I hadn't met Martina, I would never even know anything about what's going on here today. And so I want to know where should we take this, and where are we trying to go, and how do we get there?
Just that then.
That's all. Go on, just make a start. Start at it. Have a go.
Well, these things we have to pull a coherent body of work and information that is historical, is current, and is talking about future things as well.
Natasha, can you tell us a little bit about the Black Plays Archive? Try and say that.
Black Play Archive.
Yes.
So I think you all have leaflets or had leaflets put on your chairs. So Black Plays Archive came about because Kwame Kwei-Armah went to the Lincoln Center in New York. He just had some spare time and went through their library and just started watching loads of videos of African American plays. And then thought, well, why can't we have that in the UK? We obviously don't have the play recordings. But what happened is the idea was, could it become a digital database? Could we start putting the productions and the names? And actually, Martina and I were discussing this, and the archive is fragmented, which is deeply frustrating. Sometimes because of the nature of plays in the 60s and 70s, a very quick turnaround, so there are mistakes with people's names on posters, on programs. So it's quite difficult to connect who may or may not be in those plays. So we were talking about you being in Jackie Kay's play. I know this because I managed to get hold of a program, but I have no visuals of you or any kind
I've
of
got
review.
posters, mate.
Yeah.
I've got
It's
leaflets.
about having these discussions. But to your question about where are we going? So I am an academic, I work in universities, and it's a very slow process. I am currently writing a book about Black British theatre, and this has been a real struggle actually. So you get your PhD, and then the expectation is that you write for a postgraduate audience. Most of my Black students don't become postgrads, and so I've really had to fight to write a book for 18 to 21-year-olds. And you think it'd be a really easy thing to say, can I write for this market? But it has taken nearly 3 years.
And who are most of the postgrads if you were writing for them anyway?
Exactly, because they're not my Black students. That's not who's going to be in my postgrad, because I have postgrad classes, and they are majority white students. But also I have Black director friends who are like, what are the old things? What are the old productions? How do I deconstruct a character? How do I start thinking? So again, we're not really writing for practitioners either. So it's hard, it's difficult, because there's a publishing side of it, you also have to tackle curriculum, so like multiple layers.
After we hear from this lady.
Sorry, I'm Nana. I live in Wales. I've come all the way from Mid-Wales to London. I am going to drag a lot of you back with me to Wales, because this sort of thing doesn't exist. In Cardiff, we're invisible. So, Bectu recently launched in June the BAME diversity in theatre, and we had what's her name now? Chimpe. She was in Casualty. She came and spoke about how it was for her in Wales as an actor.
Suzanne Packer.
Suzanne.
Yeah.
Suzanne was at the launch.
Wonderful actress.
And recently, I've attended. I sit on the Equities Minority Ethnic Members Committee. We've just done something about audio, and we're launching a commission on about the invisible BAME audio artists anywhere. So please.
How can we assist that? How?
I am going to give you my details.
No, but what do you want us to do?
We'd like to get a lot of feedback, because Ian Mangold, who's the diversity officer, we're going to try and apply for the unknown funds, because Jamie Rogers is writing on our behalf of Equity, we started last year, about the number, over the Christmas period, the number of BAME actors. You could count how many were on television screens.
So how can we find you, and how can we find the information that you're going to come up with?
I will give you my details.
But everyone here, how can they find?
I am on...
Is there a website? Is there a...
We haven't set up the website, but if any of you are Equity members, go on to the Minority Ethnic Members Twitter page. I will put all my details there.
Great.
Because I am a sole voice in Mid-Wales, and like you said, when I went for an audio audition, I did it, and the man said, yeah, but you don't sound anything British. I said, mister, I speak French, German, Dutch, Spanish, I did Latin, boarding school, and I speak 5 Nigerian languages. So how do you want me to sound?
question there from Ben.
I pay a lot of attention to how we are written about in the media. I'm an actor and a writer. I write journalistically and creatively, and occasionally I review plays.
Oh.
And I was having a really
No, it's very important.
It is very important. No, carry
There aren't
on.
enough.
Yes.
well, there are only two. There are two. One of them was just quit because I started. But there are only two black, unambiguously black women who write about theatre in the mainstream. So there are lots of really brilliant blogs, lots of really brilliant people that are doing little things in little corners, running podcasts. But I'm talking about in terms of the big ones, you know, The Stage, The Guardian, The FT, all of those. There are only two of us, and actually we take it in turns, but whenever we get fed up with doing it. Just thinking about Renaissance and coming back round again, and we are experiencing another kind of black creative Renaissance. I'm thinking a lot about people who are around at the moment. So there are a few of us that are doing bits and pieces, but I wonder what it was like back then, how the arts media responded to your presence on stages and on pages, and whether there has been very much change.
That's very interesting, because I maintain, because as we all know, that there's a call for more diverse audiences, and I'm very much behind that as well. But my next call is for more diverse critics.
Absolutely.
I don't see how we change until we start actually critiquing the efforts at this. But can you guys talk about your reception with reviews and things like that, and how that might have changed or developed?
Well, it depends what you're doing. I mean, if it's a play that's been written from a black perspective, then you get a white reviewer. They can't. There are lots of things that are missing, and they just see the story.
Yeah.
One of the reviews we had in the Mail, I think it was the Mail, when I did Hallelujah Anyhow, was, who are these black people who drive nice cars and live in nice houses? Said the reviewer. He'd never seen them on screen before, so he couldn't understand. And they actually printed it.
That phrase, Donna, couldn't understand.
No, couldn't get it.
That's really...
Yeah.
When we did Breath Boom at the Royal Court back in 2000,
1999
into 2000, one of the reviewers it was a main publication, and this was a play set in New York about girl gangs, and so we're speaking New York. And
we were speaking
the
New
headlines. The headline of the review was, "A translator, please." And that was in something like The Guardian.
Can I give you my favourite review story, which absolutely encapsulates what you're saying. I did a series called The Long Song, which is Andrea's.
Another Andrea.
Yeah, another Andrea. Directed by Mahalia Bello. If I could work every day of my life with Mahalia Bello, I'd
Why?
be
What's that?
She's
you
fantastic.
mean? Yes.
She's fantastic. Nigerian, half Nigerian. I think she grew up in Nigeria. Wonderful director. I don't really read reviews because really I've been doing it 43 years and I can't be asked. I'm on to the next job. But I picked up the Metro or the Tube, and there was a review of The Long Song. And it said how wonderful Tamara Lawrence was as July. They loved the laconic voiceover and blah, and how fabulous that Tamara could bring comedy, and there's a little bit of thing, and how wonderful she was. Then he said, but the white characters all seem to be cardboard cutouts, and just revelling in their entitlement and their wealth and their privilege. Yeah. He couldn't understand that. And he had a real go at Hayley Atwell, who I thought was very good as she played Caroline, the sort of mad white girl who was on this bloody island with mosquitoes and just hated everybody. I thought she'd found such depth to her problems. And he said she was terrible and miscast totally. And guess whose picture they printed?
Hayley.
There's exactly that's the problem.
know, all of us, we bring our baggage to the work.
Yeah.
We all bring our baggage to the work, and those reviewers do exactly the same thing. I can't take some of the reviews. I'm talking about Richard II just because we've only just done it recently. But I cut the text. I thought of what I wanted for the design. I said I wanted to be a woman of colour. I wanted everybody involved in the production to be a woman of colour. Conceived it, everything about what I thought, blah, 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 and then I just got really good people in to just get on and do their thing, like Donna playing John of Gaunt, who knocked it out the park. You won't hear the Sceptre Dial speech done better anywhere in the world ever. But some of the reviews and the people, you know what people were saying in the reviews. Oh, they've chosen to dress them in this because it means. I'm thinking, nah, mate. We just thought we would have a bit of African, we'll have a bit of Indian, we'll put them together. Do you know what I mean? So people bring that, and I know that those review comments were nothing to do with the production, and I know that only because it was entirely our production, and I know every nut and bolt about that production. So we just have to understand that reviewers bring their baggage, and when the reviewers have no notion of what our baggage is, when they bring their baggage to review our work, then a travesty is perpetrated. And until we have a broader range of reviewers saying all those things, just like you did, and having permission to be nuanced in an informed and an intelligent way about their reviews, then we're up against that. And as we know, reviews sell tickets. So this is another way where we need to use people power and go and see the work we want to go and
yeah, reviews sell tickets. They also set the zeitgeist.
Yes.
And they reward some artists and they punish other artists.
I really choose people. I do it because it feels political, because there's so much black work around at the moment, and there are so few black people or people with the experience of the stories that are being told on the stage that are writing about that stuff. And it feels really important that the people that are writing about it in these national newspapers and in these mainstream places are people that understand it from the heart. A couple of shows that I've given, that I have understood and written about in the spirit that they were intended to be received, have received West End transfers. And I think it's a really important thing, because sometimes people say, I was sitting right on the edge of my seat and I still couldn't understand the pantomime. It's like, all right, mate, it's not for you. But that shouldn't be because you're, and I think that's just a bugbear. I think this whole thing of if Michael Billington doesn't understand something, he gives it 2 stars.
But also the danger of all of that relates, I think, to exactly why we're here today. Because as you said, Adjo, just now, that people are selected and people are punished by being favoured or not favoured by reviewers. And I think what also happens is that that's how careers are built. You get people who then go on and work again because they led this production, that production, but that doesn't happen as much when it comes to black women in the industry. And if it did, we would then be able to progress. We would have, and that's why we're here, because I think these are our Judi Denches, these are our Vanessa Redgraves, and that's what this is today is about.
Yes. I remember Joe Marcel telling me he worked at the Globe, and then Joe Marcel, you know Joe Marcel, and they couldn't understand there were all these hordes of people at the stage door. He told me that they had they just laughed. They had no idea that he'd spent 6 years doing Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Doing one of the most successful shows
in the world.
The biggest.
It was bigger than the Cosby Show. It was big.
Yeah, I had no idea. We have time for one last question. Oh, okay, 2 last questions. And
how do you pick your battles?
Carefully.
How do you pick it?
I don't sweat the small stuff.
Corinne, the question was,
how do you pick your battles?
How do you pick your battle?
Yes.
Money. I always battle about money, because at the end of the day, it's always about economics.
Corinne?
It's not about money. It's can't be about money.
No, it's not.
Because
I will always plug to get
Yeah,
What is it about, Corinne?
You pick your battles, you get the people who you think would be on your side, more or less, and you then proceed to do what you think that you've passed on to them, that we can go together. You have to be together to pick a battle. You cannot go on your own. You have to have a community, a backing sort of, you know. And then you can go into it and demand what you want, how you want to do it, and why you think that that is the best way to do it. Not just go in there and say, I want to do this or I want to do that. It's not going to work that way. You have to have consolidation with other people who you know and who is going to be working with you. Not somebody who's going to go behind your back and do something else. You want to go forward. So you choose your people, you go and you go to whatever battle it is, and then you can fight. You have to have accompaniment to fight. Well, it's the best way, because you know that if they try something, you have somebody you can back on, you can turn on to say, we don't want that. That's not for me. That might be for you, but it's not for me, you know.
And I think the point that you made about having a vision as well is a very good guideline, because it's always your heart that will give you the guideline. So you look at the battle, you go, does this help or does this hinder? If it doesn't really hinder your vision, move on. Move on.
Because you have to.
You can still say no. It doesn't matter where you are, or what level or what strata. You can still say no.
Very last one there. Very last. Oh, I'm afraid. Sorry. Go on. Yes.
It's not so much a question, it's a suggestion. I think it might answer your quarter answer and also Elias's question in terms of where we go from here, which is why don't we maybe use technology as well? These sessions are great, but based on what you both said, you have to get the numbers and you also have to knock on the doors whilst you have the room in the first place. Whereas if you use technology, you've got things like Zoom, things like Skype, maybe have a fortnightly or monthly gathering where you can just drop in, you know, anytime from any place in the world even, and just have these discussions together. We can exchange ideas, queries, issues, whatever, and then
this is where it begins.
Great, you're going to get on that then, right?
This should be broadcast Facebook Live.
Yes. This will be put online. Last.
And I've tweeted it to the ME minority ethnic members.
Thank you. Yes, last.
I just wanted to come back to the colourblind question.
Oh, I
knew. Okay, so.
And gender blind.
Yes, so, what is the necessity in the narrative that you're telling? Does Hamlet's mother have to be the same colour as Hamlet?
No,
because
it's not about race.
It's not about race. It's a story about, you know, how does the son get over grieving his father and just the uncle, all of that. So if it's not relevant, it's not relevant. So, but that's not the same as ignoring race when race is to be paid attention to. So that's different. So I think it's quite often it's going to be a case by case.
My issue, I absolutely agree. My issue often though is that when we do colourblind casting, what we do is we put black people on stage with white people to play white people.
Exactly.
As opposed to coming on stage with everything that you are, which is what your other co-actors are able and allowed to do. So it's about also finding space on those stages for pluralistic expression.
But then, Martina, that's an assumption that the play is white-based in the first place.
Well, that might happen. That might happen in a room. If you walk into a room and as a black person and you're surrounded by pictures of white people in terms of their production, then you know there's no room for you, your blackness in that production.
Well, then you make noise. Then you have to start making noise.
Yes, there is. There is room for the person who has walked in.
Yeah.
And that's where it starts.
Colour smart casting.
I'm not
I want
expecting
to be
to
clever
find it.
about it.
You're not expecting
I'm
to find.
expecting to do it.
Yeah. Yes. You're not expecting to find it in the room. You're expecting to be it when you get
Yes,
in the room.
do it. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Take up your space.
And call them on it. Start calling. This is the era to start calling them.
And there has
on
never
it.
been a juicier time to call
This
out
is a
stuff.
time for calling them on it. Okay.
Make hay while the sun shines.
Send her back.
And that's a wonderful note to end on. This is a juicy time.
I think back in 2015 when I first started having a conversation with Martina, she was like, I don't really know if I have anything to say. And I was like, my God, Martina, you are brilliant. And as most of you know, she's just been at Stratford and she's also been organising this whilst coming off the stage at 11 o'clock at night. She responds to our texts at midnight. And so please, a hand to Martina.